talk about the Green Deal's ambitions without mentioning cities and regions. They are at the front line, both when it comes to facing consequences of climate change and air pollution, but also in stepping up to address challenges to health and social issues. The consequences of inaction are deadly. A recent report commissioned by the European Public Health Alliance states that in 2018, an average EU city resident suffered a welfare loss of more than €1,250 associated with air pollution that is linked to transport. That same year, over 400,000 premature deaths were caused by air pollution. Cities and regions hold the keys to achieve climate neutrality through an accelerated shift to sustainable urban mobility. For that, cooperation is essential, and they must not work in silos to make sure that best practices are replicated and upscaled, and mutual learnings accelerate the transition towards a smarter, more sustainable and inclusive transport system. The Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy and the Mission 100 Climate Neutral Cities by 2030 are good examples of how cities can cooperate. The mission aims at assisting 100 European cities to reach climate neutrality by 2030 and making them innovation and experimentation hubs for all European cities. SOLUTIONSplus brings together highly committed partners and establishes a global platform for shared, public and commercial e-mobility solutions to kickstart the transition towards low-carbon urban mobility. Cities are at the core of the action. City-led demonstrations test different types of innovative and integrated e-mobility solutions in line with the targets of the Green Deal. To highlight one notable example on how to engage cities in the accelerating the shift towards sustainable urban mobility, in December 2020, Polis launched the Urban Green Deal Makers Pledge. By signing this document, cities across Europe committed to step up the efforts in planning for sustainable and safe mobility and create a multimodal system by cleaning their fleets and greening their streets. The connection between sustainable, safe, affordable and multimodal is essential and has to be a guiding line throughout these processes. And how exactly can mobility contribute to climate neutral cities? Well, Brussels might be famous for its beer, chocolate and surrealism, but the city is making waves with its ambitious mobility planning. Let's now hear what Elke Van Den Brandt, the Minister for Mobility of the Brussels region, has to say about the city's plans.
What are the measures you consider being crucial to achieving a climate neutral city?
If you want to have a climate neutral city, and this is the ambition of Brussels, you want to be a front runner on that aspect, we need to act in all domains. Every minister, everybody needs to act, and I'm responsible for mobility, and for me mobility is one of the aspects in which you can work to a more climate-friendly city, but it's also good to make Brussels a more attractive city to live in and to visit. So I think it's a win-win if we invest in more climate neutrality. So we have several measurements in which we do so. First of all, we have a mobility plan. It's called Good Move, and so one of the aspects is the City 30, for example, City 30. It means that we're asking people to drive slower. So the maximum speed limit is now at 30 kilometers an hour in the neighborhoods. That's good for road security. There will be fewer accidents, but it's also good for the noise because there's a lot of noise in the city, and we know when cars drive slower there's fewer noise. And it's also good for air quality because we know that when people drive slower with their cars, other people will be more tempted to walk or to cycle in the neighborhood. So that's one measurement. Another one is infrastructure. We've implemented 40 kilometers of bicycle lanes during the Corona crisis, which is really important to say to people, well, please change your habits and start walking and cycling more. It is good for you because people are more healthy when they drive their bike, but it's also good for the air pollution because we have fewer cars and fewer air pollution. It's good for the traffic jams, which causes a lot of stress. So it is a win-win situation for everybody everybody if we continue investing in those bicycle lanes. Of course, we will also continue investing in public transport. Public transport remains the most important alternative for cars, and so investing in 30% extra buses in Brussels, in new tram lines, 7 new tram lines, a new metro line, new subway line. We hope to really continue to be a front runner in offering good and attractive public transport in Brussels. We're also implementing circulation plans. So in each neighborhood, we want to make sure that cars can enter, but only for local traffic, and that people driving through, that they use the main access, and in that way we make nicer and agreeable, more greener and nicer neighborhoods for the people who are living there. We're also putting more green in the cities, making sure that we invest in our parks, in our nature, but also in every street to put more trees and fewer concrete. That's also important for having a nice city. People like to have nature in nearby, but it's also good for the climate change, and it's also good for heat waves and everything. So making sure that we make a greener city is also an important choice in our restructuring Brussels.
What is the importance of the cooperation and exchanges between the cities? What's the role of the cities as front runners?
We need to interact within cities. I think it's always very inspiring to meet policymakers from other cities. They give you ideas that you can implement in your own city as well, but they also make it possible to learn from one another. And working together on international basis is really important also to be more ambitious. And for that it's good that you have several pledges and declarations that are made on an international basis. For example, the Stockholm Agreement on Vision Zero for more road security. For example, the pledge from Polis, the Green Deal Makers pledge from Polis. Those are things that put you engage to some ambition, and then you really want to achieve that as well. So I think that's really important to speed up the ambition. And you feel also within the cities there's an urge to act. I think the emergency is felt far better in cities where people are living, where they're really confronted with health issues, with air pollution problems, with climate issues. So within the cities we feel really on a daily basis how important it is to make some changes, and I think that is helping policymakers in those cities to act. And I think that's important, that the front runners are for the moment being the cities. They're pushing it forward, and it is important to have all these context. There's international networks, because sometimes you really need to know, okay, they're fighting for the same thing, and together we can do something, and together we can put some pressure on our nation stage to really act and to really make some advancements.
There is much more to read and learn about the Green Deal and how cities contribute to it. Make sure to check out the list of additional reading materials that we've prepared for you. Thank you for listening, and until next time.